Hello. So I'm going to take you through a slightly different perspective, hopefully some common themes, exploring the subject today. So firstly, I'm going to touch on my favourite subject, which is myself. Not because I'm narcissistic, because I am, but just because I work in women's health and I get to travel the world. And one of the things that really started the female tribes was I couldn't fail to notice in my travels the way in which women are changing. So the first thing that strikes you when you go to Russia or to Asia and you're in a management company is where are the men? Particularly in Russia. Maybe the doorman or the security are male, but you go into the boardroom and it's all female and they look amazing. They can't move their faces very much, but they look amazing. And they're really smart. And why should we care? Well, women are the new emerging market. And when Ernst & Young say that, we really ought to believe it. Over the next decade, and already, women are wielding enormous financial, but also political power. And it's estimated that women control, we always knew women like to shop, but women control nearly 2/3 of the overall global consumer spend. So they're a very influential consumer. So it's inherent on us, as planners, to get this right. And even in terms of managing companies and generating wealth, not just spending wealth, generating it, I've got what we call the Dow Jones effect. So, the greater the number of female board directors, the more successful that company. So it outperforms male-led companies across all financial metrics, all of them, not just one. And equally, when you look at troubled economies, when you have women at the helm, those economies of countries recover much faster. So, they're generators, they're spenders, and they're generators of wealth. And then when you look at, this is the Brand Z study, Millward Brand proprietary tool that looks at the most successful brands. 70% of the top 100 most valuable global brands have women in the boardroom. So again, we create fantastic brands. So, why are we getting it so wrong? Why are women alienated by advertising? Maybe we're complaining a bit too much. Because, nowadays, women have so many important roles. Worried wife of cop, annoying girlfriend of fun guy, mother of heroic son in the acting world. Maybe we're just moaning a bit too much and maybe we should just shut up. Well, actually, my sarcasm betrays me because, when you look at advertising, actually women are often in these supportive roles. And here's a little example. So let's have a look at Jaguar. Did you spot the woman? It's like, come on, it's like James Bond from 50 years ago. Here are your car keys. Now, I don't know about you, I'm a woman, I'm obsessed by power, I'm a megalomaniac. Could we not have had a female villain in there? It's a supporting role. And this is the problem. We view women, not just in advertising, but in society, through a very narrow lens. So she's either busy working mum or neurotic singleton, waiting, praying to be busy working mum. And you're one or the other, and that's your life, apparently. And even when it comes to the filmic world, I think this is more than just the advertising world. Let's look at Hollywood, for example. We award women, but mostly in submissive supporting roles. God forbid she should have an achievement-based role. So only 2 Oscars in the whole history of the Oscars have been awarded to women in achievement-based roles. Great. So, most Oscars are awarded to women as, mother of heroic cop, girlfriend of slightly troubled man. You are at best a supporting role. And only 30% of roles in Hollywood are speaking parts. So we still make silent movies for women, which is very encouraging. And then, we see this with P&G, on the one hand, you can kind of applaud women, you can applaud P&G for supporting women, but actually if you've ever seen the proud sponsor of mums, it's like they watch Stepford Wives 1,000,000 times, because these women are mute, subservient women, vessels that are just there, live and breathe to create the next little generation of sporting superheroes. That is your life. God forbid you should be at all self-determining, selfish, or even have any desires of your own. Is that progress? I don't think so. And I would argue there's an appetite to see women as more self-determined, and again, even self-regarding and a little bit selfish. Look at the success of girls. 4 girls in New York, excuse my French, fucking up. Being a bit selfish, being a bit narcissistic, but enormously successful. Which brings me to, actually, the wake-up call for Hollywood. So in 2013, female-led films out-earned male-led films by over 30%. So there's clearly an appetite to see female baddies, female megalomaniacs, women achieving, women doing well. So society is catching up. But the way we're portraying women in society is the problem. And maybe it's time for a new narrative around women, because actually, when you think about busy working mum, well, Michelle Obama is a busy working mum, but that actually really underrepresents the power and immense influence that Michelle Obama carries. And if that's true for Michelle, surely that's true for nearly every woman. So, I would argue in favour of the death of the busy working mum, obviously not literally, because it'd be terrible, but a language that defines women not according to her responsibilities, but according to her achievements and aspirations. Wouldn't that be refreshing? Actually celebrating women for their achievements, for their dreams, their hopes, their visions, rather than just labelling her and reminding her of her responsibilities. How often do you hear men asked, so how do you combine that busy career with parenthood? Never. But yet as women, we're constantly reminded, don't forget the kids. And this is why I put together the new female tribes. And don't worry, I'm not going to slavishly take you through all of the tribes, because we'll be here all night and I'll bore myself. But what the new female tribes does is, the idea behind it is creating a new narrative around women, which is looking at her achievements, her aspirations, goals and desires. And it proves some things. Firstly, age is no predictor of life stage, so you can't just write women off because they're 50, or maybe predict that because she's 35, she's got 3 kids and she's a housewife. Whether she has children or not doesn't define her. She's plenty more besides. And it recognises female progress. So I'll just show you a couple of examples and hopefully remind you why it's important to look at women in a different way. So firstly, one of the tribes is the second lifer. And this is based on the idea that with life expectancies literally and kind of metaphorically on the rise, there's a tribe of women who may be married in their 20s, they're divorcing in their 40s, and now they're in their 50s, and they're not going to slide into a sea of beige fleece and look after their grandchildren for the rest of their lives. Not so. They might be starting a new career, starting a new business, or starting a new family, adopting. And, this age group is the most entrepreneurial of any demographic. And amongst them, women, again, are the ones more likely to be starting their own businesses. So again, don't think that because she's 50, she might have a few grey hairs, she's not going to be a big spender and decision maker. And then we have new Asian women. So behind every tiger economy, there's a tiger woman. And when you look to Asia, Asian women are really shedding the docile homemaker stereotype we have of Asian women. And 50% of Asian billionaires are women. 34% of all CEOs in Thailand are women. So if you're trying to attract the Asian audience, Asian female audience, portraying her as submissive isn't going to work anymore. And then we have perhaps one of the most polarising of the tribes, the modern courtesan. So young women are creating arrangements that essentially trade their social and sometimes sexual services for financial gain. So you've probably heard about sugar daddy dating. Now, whether you like it or not, what this tribe represents is the way in which women are using their sexuality in a much more empowered way. So if you're talking in the world of beauty to women, maybe let's not think about, she's beautiful, so she can please her man. Let's think about beauty as power, as making her stronger. And then we look at the African political class, for example. Now, the African political class really challenge our notions of what is a developed versus developing nation and culture, because if you look to Africa, there are more women in the political corridors of power than anywhere else in the world, beating America, beating the UK, hands down. So in, for example, South Africa, women make up 46% of the parliament. In the UK, it's around 14%. Quite startling. And the reason why I touch on these tribes is because celebrating female achievement and self-determination fundamentally shifts the conversation. What do I mean? Let's have a look at some examples. So here is, for example, Veet. In the world of beauty, which talks about her responsibility to look good for her man. Isn't that always a good conversation to have? Shall we have a look at the ad?
Yeah, I know. I'm a little prickly. I shaved yesterday.
Don't risk dudeness. Veet wax strips. Feel womanly around the clock.
When I see these ads, it's the time at which I think maybe feminism should become a combat sport. Because these kind of ads make me quite angry. I don't want to go out and buy razors, or if I did, they wouldn't be to shave my legs. And women, it's fair to say, didn't just slightly dislike this ad, they hated it. Not only women, but also gay men, because they said, actually, this is quite insulting, quite prejudicial. So that's one way of talking about beauty. The other way, perhaps, is Oriental Princess. So this Oriental Princess is a cosmetics brand in Singapore and Thailand, and they decided, recognizing new Asian woman, empowered, in control, high salary, etc., they translated beauty into the power derived from being beautiful. So they created a whole mini-series with women who were, murder mystery stars and potential assassins, and you had to solve the murder mystery, and there was digital and action. This was one of the fastest growing campaigns for the brand. They pretty much doubled sales overnight. Enormous participation in this. And again, if you look at, say, for example, Unilever in Japan, or, for example, Pantene in Thailand, we're starting to talk about women and beauty in a much more empowered way. How refreshing. Again, let's look at M&S. Now, the female achievers that they're celebrating in the M&S Leading Ladies is getting a lot of press coverage, if not people running into store buying the products. But I think that's a separate issue. However, this has driven enormous traffic to the website and engagement digitally with the campaign. And again, as a woman, I look at this and I feel very positive about it. It makes me think differently about the M&S brand. And they're celebrating, they've got female sportswomen, women with OBEs, female engineers. Isn't that great? Isn't that refreshing? And another example of changing the conversation is L'Oreal, using Jane Fonda, so celebrating beauty for women in their 70s, so recognising that just because you might have a few wrinkles or you might be in your 70s, you still want to look beautiful. So it's redefining the nature of beauty and democratising beauty much more and celebrating beauty throughout the ages. Again, very refreshing and a new way of talking to women. So this is, the crux of the argument for me is that changing the narrative around women can be game-changing. Thank you.